we have two incredible experts. I'm going to introduce them, then we'll pepper them with many questions and learn from their expertise. So first, Kristen is a business attorney who's committed to helping BIPOC, LGBTQIA+, and women entrepreneurs protect their work and themselves as their businesses and their impacts grow. She built her law practice, Herwitz Law, on paying it forward 8 years ago, reinvesting at least 10% of her profits into organizations that support women and social justice. Kristen is also a coach on AOF's free coaching hub, and she posts legal tips on her Instagram as well. Thank you so much for being with us, Kristen.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
And next, we have Kim Meckwood. Kim is the owner and inventor of Click and Carry, a unique bag handle carrying apparatus. She hails from a background of medical device and pharmaceutical sales and decided to make a major life change after the life-altering experience of being diagnosed with breast cancer. That journey through cancer gave her the faith and determination to quit her stable job and bring her really unique and very useful products to market. And since then, she has been featured on Shark Tank, Good Morning America, and QVC, just to name a few. Thank you so much for being here, Kim.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so we'll move to kind of that second pillar when we think about a solid legal foundation for a business, which is the contracts. So, Kristen, what would you say are the essential elements of a solid contract? I know you have a contract template service that you offer. What are some of those essential elements? And then the reverse, what are some common mistakes that entrepreneurs should avoid?
When folks are getting started, you can't necessarily afford to hire a lawyer to write a custom contract. You also don't even really necessarily know what you need in it or how you're going to run your business. And there's going to be some stuff that you change along the way. So even if you had the money, it doesn't always make sense to put your budget there. But it is important to have a contract in place. If we think about the purpose of a contract, it's about kind of setting their relationship up for success from the start. And also anticipating where things may go wrong. And so what kind of communication do we need to have to protect ourselves, feel like we were on the up and up with communicating clearly, and so that our clients are also clear before they purchase something from us or before they start working with us. And so I like to start with anticipating like the breakup clause. Like, what happens if this doesn't work out? We all go in with the best intentions and we're so excited. And sometimes people are partnering with a friend and they're just really amped and feeding off of that positive energy. And to protect, any pre-existing friendship or, professional relationships you may have, and to protect your business, and also, your client's interests too, thinking about, okay, if this just really isn't working, what might the reasons for that be? And when do we want to be able to part ways? And so that might be, anticipating just starting out with, a 3-month term. So that meaning the length of time you're kind of testing the waters, and then revisiting a renewal clause. If someone just breaks a promise and one thing would be misleading or straight up lying about something where it would take significant amounts of repair and energy to kind of fix that situation, if it can even be fixed, you might want to have the ability to just straight up fire your client. And then on the flip side, if the client is like, this just isn't really working for me, what rights do you want to give them about when and how to end that and how much notice? Another thing to think about that kind of goes hand in hand with that is payment, making sure that you collect enough money upfront, if not fully upfront, which, we're used to paying fully upfront for products. People are not as used to that for services. And what is often happening is that, especially when folks work with a bigger organization and, things don't go well, or, it could just be due to corporate budget issues, and they're trying to cut some people loose. And if they can just do that at any time and you didn't collect money up front, and they're now saying, well, we didn't really like what you did, or you didn't really finish it, so we're not going to pay you. I've had multiple folks come to me after getting in that type of situation. And one person who I was able to work with on negotiating the contract on the outset was actually, she was working with a global brand that wanted to sign a 6-month contract. And it was 15 days into the contract, and the brand decided they wanted to bring that role in-house and basically just stack it on someone else's pre-existing salary. But because we had negotiated a 60-day notice clause, that gave her a $20,000 runway to then be able to go and figure out what her next, project was going to be, because she had marked off the next 6 months of her life to devote to this brand. And so, seemingly little asks like that on the outset can make a big difference with the contracts. And then lastly, it'd be intellectual property. Thinking about what type of intellectual property you've created or that someone else is creating for you. Who is going to own that? How can you use it or change it? How can they use it or change it? If you're kind of collaborating with a colleague or a friend in business to co-create something, can you each sell that separately? Like what are kind of the rules around that? What are we agreeing to? And I think that's one that people often skip. Unlike, payments, we pay a little bit more attention to that sometimes.
I think the last thing you said about just getting clarity. We often have a lot of assumptions based on our personalities, our experiences, what we expect from people, and just making sure to put those things in writing and be clear about that shared expectations. Kimberly, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about contracts and their role in your business. Can you tell us about an experience when a contract played a really crucial role and kind of how you navigated that situation?
Sure. I'll save the best for last, but to Kristen's point, there's so many different contracts that I use day to day. For example, I outsource my Amazon advertising agency, so it's really important to establish those rules prior to going into business with this agency. And the same with, let's say, website design, social media marketing. There's so many contracts that need to be enlisted just to protect yourself. And a lot of these companies want to protect themselves from my company as well. So it's very important to make sure you have all of the rules negotiated prior to engaging with that company. I also have contracts with my intern and part-time employees, and most importantly with my factory, because I want to make sure that they keep on time and that everything that's promised to me, I receive. So as far as the fun one, I'd say the fun one would be the contract with Shark Tank. So interestingly, the year I filmed, I didn't make it to air. And it was basically a secrecy contract. So I wasn't allowed to tell anyone that I was going to be on the show until 3 weeks prior to my episode airing. So after that year went through, I was unable to talk about being on the show, but I wasn't going to be on the show. But for me, COVID was actually a good thing. Because of COVID, they didn't believe that they would be able to film Shark Tank. They ultimately ended up filming in a quarantined hotel in Las Vegas, but ABC bought my episode from the year prior because they didn't think that they had any material. So I still had to stick with the secrecy contract in regard to from the point that I was told that ABC bought my episode until my episode finally aired. And I still am tied to that contract because I could only use certain logos and certain footage from the show in my social media and my email marketing and my advertisements. So it's very important that I follow the rules so that Shark Tank can't come after me for being a bad participant on their show.
Well, thank you for sharing those examples. I mean, the last one in particular, it's such a fantastic opportunity. And so you certainly want to be playing by the rules to make the most of having been on such a successful show. This is going to have to be the end of our conversation today when it comes to legal considerations when starting a business. But I want to give the biggest possible thank you to Kim and to Kristen, to both of you for sharing your time and your wisdom and your expertise with us.
an example of a different Black woman client of mine who has a diversity, equity, and inclusion firm who's, working on organizational change. And so a lot of times they step into these corporations who are like, yeah, we're ready to do the work. We really, want to dismantle white supremacy. And then they start doing the work and they're like, oh, this is hard and uncomfortable. And now I feel angry. Like, and I don't think this isn't what we thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be, like a touchy feely, happy, we're going to all be best friends kind of thing. How do we do that better? And you've got to dismantle some stuff before you can get to that point. So for that type of situation, her being able to get out of that contract, pretty quickly, if there's, a few different discussions around, we need to have respectful communication at a minimum, makes sense versus, if you're talking about technology or software agreements, licenses that last for a year, we sign up for a certain platform to host webinars on. And that's a good example of like, you sign up on a month by month basis, or you get a discount when you sign up for the year. And so what that term and how you can end it is going to be different.